This is your math gal, Julie Harland. Please visit my website at yourmathgal.com, where all of my videos are organized by topic. All right, we're going to continue graphing trig functions, and we're still working on the sine function where we have a different period than 2 pi. And so on this video, we're going to graph y equals -1/2 sine of pi over 3x. Now remember, you might see that written as y equals -1/2 sine pi x over 3. Just keep that in mind, that's the same thing. Pi over 3 times x might be written as pi x over 3. Okay, so here's our problem. State the period and graph. All right, there's different ways of getting the period. Let's use the formula this time to get the period. Remember, it's 2 pi over b. So what's b in this case? It is the coefficient of x. So this would be, for this problem, 2 pi divided by pi over 3, which is 2 pi divided by pi over 3, which is 2 pi times 3 over pi. Now this is kind of interesting. Notice the pi's cancel. So you know what? The period is 6. Just plain old 6. Just the number 6. Not 6 pi, just the number 6. So when I'm going to graph this, it's going to go in between 0 and 6, right? Let's say that's where 6 is. We need to find the markings right there. All right, so what would those be? We start at 0. What would the next marking here on the x-axis be? Well, it's 1/4 of the way to 6. What's 1/4 of the way to 6? Well, that's 3 halves or 1 1/2. So that's 1 1/2. You could write 3 halves. And then 1 1/2 more would be 3. 1 1/2 more would be 4 1/2. And 1 1/2 more than that would be 6. And that should seem reasonable to you. The one in the middle is 3, isn't it? Okay. And so here's 1 1/2 and here's 4 1/2. Now what about the y coordinates? We've got the period right here. So let's keep in mind this is the period. Okay. What about the amplitude? What's the amplitude? Well, look at the coefficient here. It's -1/2. Remember, it is the absolute value of that. So it's +1/2. But what does that minus sign indicate? That indicates that it's going to go down first. In other words, all the y values for y equals sine x get multiplied by -1/2. Right, hopefully you're pretty comfortable with those y values by now. You've been doing them over and over and over again. I'm just going to write them over on the side here. Remember the y values go 0, 1, 0, -1, 0. Remember that? Those are the y coordinates of those key order pairs. So each of those values get multiplied by -1/2. So -1/2 times 0 would be 0. And remember, that's going to be every other one is going to be the 0. Because you're going to keep multiplying 0 times something. All right, what about the second y coordinate that I need right here? It's -1/2 times 1, which is -1/2. And this fourth value, -1/2 times -1, is +1/2. So my range is only between -1/2 and +1/2. You can just label this +1/2 and -1/2 if you want. Let's say I'm going to go over here and do a couple more markings. Here's -3, for instance. All right, so let's graph these. not everybody needs to write the x and y values. Some people just say, I know it's going to go down half, when I go fourth of the way over, I'm going to go down to -1/2 because it goes down first. That's okay. But these are the key ordered pairs. You might be asked what the 5 ordered pairs are. So we've got over 1.5, down 1/2. And then we've got 3, 0. That's this order pair. We've got 4.5, 1/2, and 6, 0. So notice this is unusual, but remember the x coordinates could be anything, and in this case we're not labeling pi on here at all. It's really not relevant for this particular problem. Goes in between, one cycle goes in between 0 and 6. So don't assume you're going to always write where 2 pi is or anything like that. Right, there we go. Here, if I kept on going, I could get a little bit more. And then we've got, well, it looks like about 2 cycles, or I guess about 1.5 cycles of the graph of y equals -1/2 sine of pi over 3x. Just for fun, let's write down what the domain and the range are. The domain is always the same in the sine or the cosine function, -infinity to infinity. What's the range? The very bottom and the very top y coordinate goes between -1/2 and +1/2. Then I've got my amplitude, which I already stated was right here. I stated my period. So I've got my domain, my range, my amplitude, my period. There was no vertical shift here. It wasn't going up any. There was no phase shift. It didn't move left or right. That could happen in more complicated problems. And we have the graph of it. This is your math gal, Julie Harland. Please visit my website at yourmathgal.com, where all of my videos are organized by topic.